Hello, I'm Karen, and this is the reading of Greenlight Medical Anatomy of Kindness by Lunager on AO3. Chapter 7, MIA -1. The shutters are drawn in the detective's office, as they had been for the past 11 hours. The sky beyond the window had been a radiant blue when Hisashi had first arrived just after 11 a.m. While waiting, it had tinged a beautiful shade of orange before running into red and fading to black. But no one inside the office really cared. It was silent inside the room. Not quiet? No, silent. The clock ticked away on the wall, the noise of cars from the nearby street resonating through the window, voices from other detectives, officers, and heroes alike wafting through the crack of the door, unaware of the tragedy inside. It was silent in the way that the two people occupying the office refused to speak. The oppressive need to somehow process what they had heard while staying in each other's company. It was silent in the way that Hisashi could hear his own heartbeat above everything. The way it calmed down and grew tired after all the anxiety, waiting, and then crying. Now it was just beating with a slow sorrow. The recording made 2 hours ago inside the questioning rooms was playing on loop on the computer in front of him. On screen was a villain who was apprehended earlier today. Hisashi couldn't even bother to remember his name right now. It didn't say a lot on the capture report, and he only really bothered to find out what happened after Sakauchi phoned him back and told him immediately to come to the station. The moment Hisashi called in that Shota did not inform anyone of his change in route and did not come home, a hero was dispatched to tail the location of the goggles and find out the status of Eraserhead. It led them to a shady bar on the south side, far from Eraserhead's original patrol route. Villains were found inside, loudly boasting with the support equipment, and Hisashi felt tears well up, threatening to wet his tear-stained face once again. He should be glad he at least got to know everything so early and in such detail. A civilian would only be told about the situation and not much more. Hisashi had the privilege of being a hero and knowing the detective/officer who was in charge of Eraserhead personally. Even though it was a personal matter to him, and he should be kept out, those factors kept him in the loop. He appreciates it, but really, how could he be glad when all he wishes is that this hadn't happened in the first place? The video in that moment chose to replay the conversation that had been haunting his mind ever since he was allowed access to the recording. Eye contact or voice works best. Once it triggers, the target feels an overwhelming certainty that resisting me is pointless. Not fear, not paralysis. Compliance. They want to surrender. After that, their brain shuts itself off. Clean blackout. I don't see the point of me telling this again. You already know it. Is that how you took down the pro hero? Sakauchi's voice echoed through the speakers. He had been the interviewing officer. Damn, that was a pro. Honestly expected a pro to have more resistance. But no, it took about 3 seconds. He rushed over us, I felt the way he was confident in his mind. Heroes always are. I told him to drop his guard and sleep. He did, like an obedient little dog. Head hit the pavement before he even realized what was happening. Honestly, a little pathetic. Hisashi was too tired at this point to stoke the embers of rage the way he did when he heard this the first few times. He was just tired now. You didn't incapacitate him. You robbed him. Of course I did. What kind of idiot leaves a downed hero fully equipped? He had that weird scarf. Honestly, I didn't know what to do with that, so I sold it off to the first bidder. The goggles, though. I bet they would have gone for a good price. And the phone. Hero phones were gold. Contacts, patrol routes, encrypted apps. You really should keep them better off spec. And then what happened? Hisashi sighed at the nausea still clawing at his throat. He knew what came then. Stabbed the fucker. Couldn't have him getting up on me, could I? My quirk only works for so long, Quirk effects were off faster when the body's shocked. Didn't want him waking up too soon. Was the wound lethal? Probably. I couldn't see that well, I just stabbed him somewhere and hoped it would hurt. Probably got his lung or something. His breathing got all weird afterwards. Also shot the bastard soldier. Again, insurance. Heroes are stubborn, even half dead. They try to crawl back into the fight. Hard to chase me with one working arm. The villain's laugh filled the room, and Hisashi felt tears starting to sting in the corners of his eyes again. Where is he now? Some alley. Deserted one? Yeah, Out of sight, out of cameras. Laid in behind a dumpster? Can't have a corpse scaring children when they walk past the alley and happen to look inside. Children are curious, and I am a criminal, not an animal like some people. You expect us to believe you showed concern? I did. Not for the hero, no. His mind was so primitive. Hisashi zoned out after that again. His throat felt very tight. Everything happened last night, hours ago. A pierced lung, a gunshot wound, and he wasn't found anywhere. The only logical conclusion would be that he was dead. Died, all alone and in agony in some alleyway. Hisashi pressed his hand firmer against his mouth, choking back the sob again, tears welling up in his eyes. Did Shota remember that Zashi loved him before he died? Did he know that he had been loved? Did he spend his last moment happy with the life he had led? Tsukauchi sighed across the room from him. They had switched places at some point, the hero sitting behind the desk, while the detective laid on the couch, nursing a glass of alcohol. Hearing Kazashi's poor attempts at keeping the silence, the other man pulled out a new box of tissues from the storage box and handed it to him, the first one already having been completely used up. The blonde was glad he had someone who was with him right now. Eraserhead's disappearance was a current running case, meaning that even though his death was evident from the interview, they couldn't inform anyone else who wasn't directly involved in this. Hisashi had only called Nemuri to let her know that she should cover his patrol route today, and to let Nezu know he won't be participating in the preschool year meetings. Even when she asked him why he sounded so anxious, he couldn't disclose anything. Sure, Tsukauchi wasn't a close friend of his, but he had been close to Shota. First the dispatcher, then commanding officer, his trusted detective, and ultimately, a friend. It was a comfort that someone was here that understood and shared the sorrow. His own obnoxious ringtone rang out. Hisashi grit his teeth together, trying to keep calm. He had specifically asked Nemuri to relay that he shouldn't be disturbed to anyone who it might concern today, but he couldn't be mad at someone being concerned over him. He would be too if someone had called out without any explanation. He couldn't be mad. Even if he really wanted to scream the ears off of anyone who dared disturb his morning. Taking out his phone, he swiped the declined call without even looking at the caller ID, sliding the phone back to his pocket. It could have been his hero agency calling him that he just lost his job for all he cared, and he wouldn't give a shit right now. Let a husband mourn in peace. The ringing started up again. He fished the phone out, slamming it down on the table, and stared at the offending caller. The anonymous caller. Oh fuck no, he would not be dealing with a scam call today. No thank you. He declined the call again. And just as he was about to sigh and look at the screen in front of him again, trying to brand the villain's image out of his mind so he could hate him for the rest of his life, the phone started up again. Still an anonymous caller. It was tempting to pick up the call just to scream into the mic and deafen anyone on the other side. And you know what? His day was already bad enough. He could use an outlet. Tsukauchi chose that moment to poke his head above the desk, and the blonde signaled for him to cover his ears. The other man did so and laid back down on the brown couch. He accepted the call. And then there was just quiet. He waited until that goddamn scammer started speaking until... Zashi? He immediately dropped the cupped hands he held above the microphone and scrambled to hold the phone to his ear. His fingers weren't quite cooperating because he knew that voice. Just today he thought he might hear it for the last time. He fumbled and nearly dropped the phone on the floor before finally bringing it to his ear. "Sho?" he whispered. Tsukauchi's head shot up at lightning speed, nearly hitting the desk. "Is that really you, Sho?" The voice of his husband seemed to be very tired as he responded slowly. Yeah, it's me, Zashi. Don't worry about me. I'm fine as I can be." "Where are you? Are you alright? Just tell me where you are. I'll be there in minutes." Shota interrupted him. "I'm fine. I can't tell you where I am. I have to check up with the, one taking care of me first. I'm not sure if it'd be fine calling you here, but don't worry. I'm receiving help and medical attention." In Hisashi's eyes, tears welled up again. How much medical attention can one get in an alleyway after being stabbed in the lung? Shota must have understood the silence because he instantly went to reassure him. Really, I'm fine. Actually, better than I should be. I went to someone who I knew would be able to help. A hospital? We both know your injuries wouldn't have been able to. Kinda. Sashi's mouth clamped shut at the strained tone he was interrupted with. Sho, where are you? Somewhere safe. He hesitated. Is someone listening to you? A lengthy pause followed, and his husband sighed. I don't know. That was concerning. Was he really safe? He looked up at Tsukauchi and folded a hand over the mic. By the look of the other man, the volume of his phone was loud enough for him to hear it too. He tried his best to be quiet while whispering, Is he safe right now? Tsukauchi hesitated before nodding slightly, meaning that Shota at least really believed he wouldn't be harmed wherever he was right now. Right? Shota's voice broke him out of his thoughts again. Do you trust me? There's only one right answer to this question. Of course I do. Hisashi wasn't freaking out. He wasn't. Less than 12 hours ago, Shota went missing. Again, less than 3 hours ago, he was found out that his husband had died by bleeding out in an alley, all alone. Then, he found out that he was actually still alive. Alive and breathing, thank fuck, and a mysterious someone helping him. Now he's waiting for further instructions from him. The idiot should count himself lucky that Hisashi trusted him with his whole heart and mind. The blonde should probably call himself an idiot too, as he never confirmed the identity of the person on the other side of the call until Tsukauchi piped up and reminded him. The irony, the intoxicated one was the one thinking clearly and not choked up on emotions. But no, the uncertainty of the whole situation wasn't weighing on him at all. Shota said that someone might come into contact with him soon. To do what? He didn't know either, but someone probably would, and wasn't that concerning. But again, Hisashi trusted him fully. Alas, it had been 2 hours since a rather short phone call, and he was starting to worry. Like, a lot. Tsukauchi sat across from him, finally back on his desk, organizing files and fixing the report of the villain from murder to attempted murder, and adding the memory log off revealing the phone call. Softly sighing and rubbing his temples whenever he saw a new email chimed in and obscured the vision of the document. At some point, Hisashi had to put music on his phone and had gone down to get something from the vending machine for both of them. So now, here they were, coping in the late hour of the night and snacking away on whatever the hero managed to snag from the leftover money he found in his pocket. Finally, only a remnant of silence filled the air. The remainder was the restless and impatient quiet of the night. That chapter was really quite fun. When I first read it, maybe a month ago. Hi, editing Kieran here. I said maybe a month ago. That was wrong. It was actually maybe 2 months and a half, give or take. Not a month ago. It was this chapter that made me super addicted, if you will, to this fic. I've read it through about 3 times already, so naturally I had to podfic it. But the emotions of Hisashi thinking that his husband had died, mad at the world but unable to really be mad at the world, and just the grief, the mourning, the unknown. And we as readers know that Shota is still alive, but we have to watch Hisashi and Tsukauchi not know that he is alive. And it's quite entertaining. Hey, it's editing Kieran again. I don't know why I said it was entertaining watching them go through the stages of grief. I meant it as it was well written. Sorry about that. After all is said and done, thank you for listening. At this point, I feel like I should just redo the entire outro.